Hey boys and girls, I am Miss Laura and welcome to day 4 of your virtual vacation Bible school. Day 4 is all about God's promise to us that He will never leave us and He's always with us. And our Bible memory verse for this week, don't forget, is I'm sure of this, that He who started a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ, from Philippians 1:6. So hide that verse in your heart and remember it always, that He started something in you and He will finish it. Thank you guys, and we'll get to our craft in just a moment, but I wanted to go over our lesson and talk to you about Jesus' death and resurrection a little bit and about the reaction of His disciples. So in our Bible scripture that we're going to cover today, it comes from Matthew chapter 28. And it's a really common passage that you probably would have heard from before when we talk about it at Easter and death and resurrection of Jesus. But I wanted to dig into it a little bit and talk to you about why it's so important that we look at Jesus' resurrection. So whenever Jesus was crucified on the cross and He was put into the tomb, the day that His body was discovered missing by Mary Magdalene and the women that went to the tomb is really important, because women at that time, they weren't very important. They weren't considered important, but they're included in this passage because their reaction was so amazing. So during the first 10 verses of Matthew chapter 28 talks about the resurrection of Jesus. Whenever we look at it closely, the women that went to the tomb praised Him. They were shocked that He was gone, first of all. They saw that the stone had been rolled away, the guards were not there, what's going on? So they went to tell the disciples. But they praised. They said, He's done what He said He would do. He came back to life. We know it in our heart, we know it in our bones. He is here, He has risen. And at first the disciples, I'm not going to say they were unbelieving, but it was a surprise. You know, for somebody to come back from the dead, and they told you that they would come back from the dead, it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, if you were in that position today, think about how you would react. And also the supernatural things that occurred that day. You know, the angel coming and the stone being rolled away, the thunder, the lightning, all of this was part of God's plan to make people realize that what God said would happen, happens. So when we think back on the story and how the disciples saw Jesus when they went on the road to Galilee, He told them to go to Galilee. They did that, and on the way there, they actually got to meet Him again and see Him and get proof for themselves. Later on in Matthew chapter 28, God gives us the Great Commission. In verses 16 through 20, He tells us to go and tell the world. So that's part of our responsibility. But He also says, I will be with you always. He says in specific, I am with you always to the end of the age. That means for all time, I am with you. When He tells us to go forward and tell people, we know in our hearts that He came and rose from the dead. So we go and tell people that, and tell people of His love for others, and that's our Great Commission. So in going forward, when we tell people of God, always remember He is with us when we're doing that, and He will never leave us. Hey guys, so for day 4 craft, we are talking about God's promise that He will always be with us. And so that we can kind of remember that, we're making a mirror. And our mirror kit comes with this piece of foam that's going to be like the background, and the little mirror. It has a little film over the top of it, so we'll get that off last so that we don't put a lot of fingerprints on it. But it has a little mirror that we will mount to the foam. And then, of course, since we're talking about construction this week and how God is our foundation for life, we've got these little tools that you would typically use in construction. There's a hammer and a wrench and a screwdriver and some nuts and bolts. So we want to decorate our mirror with these things. These are just stickers, and everything is peel and stick, so it's super easy. And at the end, we're going to attach a magnet to the back. Our kit comes with this little piece of magnet, has a little peel off on the back, and we're just going to put that on the back of our mirror. We do want to leave room to write at the top of our mirror and leave room to decorate with our stickers. So I'm going to kind of mount my mirror a little bit towards the bottom. See how there's a little bit more space there at the top than there is at the bottom? And you'll also need a marker or a Sharpie that will write on this foam. Usually the Sharpie works the best because the regular markers might be water-based and they might not work. So try to ask your mom and dad for a Sharpie. It doesn't matter if it's black or a different color. And you're gonna write on top of your mirror that God is with me. God is always with me. So we're gonna start by, you take your piece of foam, and I'm gonna lay mine sideways just so I can kind of tell what I'm doing here. I'm gonna peel the white part off the back, and I'm just gonna lay it on my foam, kind of center it towards the bottom, just like that. And I'm gonna decorate with my stickers. Super easy. I've got some nuts and bolts. I'm sticking mine to the outside edges, kind of like a border, but you can stick yours on the mirror part. Just leave room so you can see yourself in the mirror. We don't want to cover up the mirror totally. I've got all the nuts and bolts and the hammer and the screwdriver. If any of you have ever done any construction projects, then you know you need all these tools to work with. They come in super handy. There's lots of these little stickers, so be creative and take your time. You can even add some drawings of some tools if you want to with your Sharpie later. And I'm going to take my Sharpie. All right, God is with me always. Right at the top. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna put my magnet on the bottom. Don't forget this, and you can put it somewhere where you can attach it to your refrigerator, maybe somewhere you go all the time, I'm sure right now, so that when you look in the mirror, you'll know that God is with you always. And don't forget to peel off the little film that's over your mirror so it'll be nice and shiny and reflective. That's all there is to it. So I hope you enjoy this craft, and remember that God's promise to be with you always is forever. Have fun, guys.